Happy World Diabetes Day! So it's been a very exciting month already, and today I wanted to talk to you about, first of all, my 10k and how I did it, managing my type 1 diabetes, and second of all, the next challenge that I've got coming up for World Diabetes Day. So 10k might seem like a strange distance for somebody whose normal trade is a sprinter. However, I wanted to completely challenge myself in a new and different way because I believe that physical activity is completely possible with type 1 diabetes. It just has to be done safely and you have to prepare really well. So 10k is 100 times 100 meters, and it did take some preparation and some training, but the day before yesterday I did manage to achieve it, and hypo free, which was something that I was incredibly proud of and incredibly pleased with as well. So my preparation started quite a few weeks ago. I've been going to parkrun regularly on a Saturday morning. So for those of you who don't know, it's a completely free 5k event all around the country. People meet at 9 o'clock, really well organised, and it's a timed run. You get a barcode and you get your time. So I've been building my fitness that way, and I've also been in a gym doing cardio and core work as well, just to try and build up some stamina and to get my body used to the feeling that's very different to sprinting. So then a bit closer to the event, in the days leading up to it, I really concentrated on keeping my blood glucose levels within range, and also kind of not excessively, but really thinking about the types of carbohydrates that I was taking on board to make sure that I could start to build those glycogen stores, which is going to be the energy that I use during the 10k run. So for example, the night before I made sure I had a really good dish of risotto and fish for my evening meal, because I had the protein and I had the carbohydrates to help me with what I knew was going to be quite a tough run and recovering later on, but also because I wanted to avoid having a hypo the night before, because as you can imagine, being up all night and kind of having to worry about all of that before a 10k run would have been less than ideal. So on the morning of my run, I woke up quite early. The race was about 11:15, so I woke up at 7:30 and had my breakfast. So I decided to have 2 Weetabix and a banana as well. So it was about 42-45 grams of carbohydrate, and I was mindful as well whether I needed to check my blood glucose levels, but whether I needed to bolus for all of it, because I also, whilst I wanted it all to go in, I also didn't want to have too much insulin on board whilst I was doing the race. So fast forward a little bit then to about 2 hours before the race, and I tested my blood glucose levels again, because similar to when I'm training and sprinting, although maybe the only similarity, I wanted to give myself time that if my blood glucose levels weren't where I wanted them to be, I had time to act. And I also started thinking about my temporary basals then about an hour or so before. So I found that my blood glucose levels were good. They were around the 8 mark about half an hour before. So I considered my temporary basal again, made the reductions that I needed. I also took on board some jelly babies as well, because I felt like I needed that kind of bit of background really, because I still had a little bit of insulin on board. And speaking of jelly babies, I also carried those glucose shots, dextrose tablets, and my blood glucose kit with me whilst I was running in a little running wallet. A lot of you know them as spy belts, just because I didn't want to have to get back from any part of the run if something went wrong with my diabetes. Didn't want to try and fuss and find stuff. I just wanted to have it with me, which really helped my confidence levels, I think, knowing that I had everything that I needed. So we set off and I felt okay. I took my time with the pace because my aim was just to finish the 10k. Doesn't sound like a huge deal, but it really was to me because I've never done that kind of distance before. I was really pleased to be joined on the start line by my husband and also a fellow type 1 that I'd made friends with at parkrun. So he gave me some great advice about fueling up about halfway through if I needed it, and also he of course course reminding me to test my blood glucose levels whilst I was running. So I really appreciated his advice, and when I got to about 5k I did check where my levels were going, and I also took on board about 15 grams of glucose. Then about I think it was about 7k I took on some dextrose tablets as well, because I just needed a little bit more fuel just to keep things level. And I finished my race on a blood glucose level of 8.6, which I was absolutely thrilled with, and I was really pleased that my diabetes hadn't hampered me in any way. I think because I prepared for the race. And then in the hours afterwards then, I still needed to keep an eye on what my blood glucose levels were doing. I found that they spiked a little bit after I'd finished running, but I made sure that I kind of really maintained my hydration right up into the evening, and my blood glucose levels soon came back down again. I made sure that I had a really kind of strong carbohydrate and protein focused meal in the evening, rice and chicken and vegetables, to make sure that I didn't have a hypo overnight, which I didn't. I was thrilled to wake up, I looked at my CGM and I'd been a straight line throughout the night, which there is a little bit of luck involved in that as well, I think, but I also really did try and consider how to avoid having hypos overnight too, because that might have spoiled the thrill and exhilaration of the run. So that is not my only running feat during Diabetes Awareness Month. So today, for World Diabetes Day, I will also be joining Diabetes UK this time, and fellow type 1s, other people with diabetes and diabetes healthcare professionals, to run to up to 30 different GP surgeries in Cardiff to give out literature to make them more aware of diabetes. So hopefully you'll join me on my Instagram, where you can follow me through my stories, and I'll be blogging about it afterwards as well. But please, whatever you do, let's just talk about diabetes and shout about the signs and symptoms on World Diabetes Day. Look after yourselves, and I look forward to speaking to you again.